Hello and welcome to Flowering Creativity. This is the podcast where we explore the lives of creative people and provide practical tips for helping you to achieve and sustain your creative lifestyle and goals. Today, I am honored to speak with Evelyn Holland, a singer-songwriter, guitarist, and leader of Keys of Solomon, a progressive metal band formed with Isaac Brustol. She's been playing with various rock bands since 2010, has released 2 albums, and is working on her 3rd studio album. Check her out at keysofsolomon.bandcamp.com. Evelyn, I enjoy having you as a regular guest on The Sound, and I'm excited to have you on Flowering Creativity.
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's good to be here, Matthew.
We're going to check out a sample of Evelyn's work so that you have a little bit of an idea of who we're dealing with as we talk here. Evelyn, why don't you tell me a little bit about your new project? We've talked about it a little bit on The Sound. We just played a couple of clips. Why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the songs? Whatever you want to talk about.
The 3rd studio record for this project has been... I've been kind of doing it off and on since about January. I released the 2nd record in January, and that was the first time I did everything, with a couple exceptions. I had a few guests, but I programmed the drums, I played the bass, I played the guitar, I did vocals, keyboard, yeah, synths, yeah, all
I
all
understand.
it's
Yeah, I've done similar with Mellify. I understand.
yeah. So it was quite the undertaking, and then I had some leftover material from those sessions that
Hmm.
I hadn't like fully developed. So I started with, I think, this one that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of atmospheric, and then I kind of went from there, and then all these other tunes came out, and I could say it's a little more, or a little, it has more of a direction than the second record, because the second record was just trying to figure out how all of it works, and because I'd never gone about programming drums and
Oh yeah.
doing everything. I mean, I was familiar with arranging everything myself with the first record, because I guess with the exception of like a small percentage of certain parts of the songs, I composed pretty much everything, including the lyrics, on the first record. I was definitely familiar with that. It's just like doing everything. And
Oh yeah.
at the beginning of the pandemic, when I moved here to the Portland metro area, yeah, I had a lot of time on my hands. Just kind of think about various things, and 20-minute song actually came out of those times. I think I started writing it in April of 2020,
Hmm.
right at the height of the pandemic. I wrote something kind of like loopy and electronic-y, and in my own vein, in a more rock vein. But yeah, that ended up being the second part of Gray Area. And then I kind of went off in a completely different direction and turned it into this more orchestrated thing, and long. And yeah, I just kept
Cool.
adding to it, and it ended up being 20 minutes. I didn't even do that purposefully.
Right on.
And then I wrote a few other tunes. I wrote my first post-punk black metal influence song. That was a little bit of an experiment.
Yeah, that sounds like a neat combination of genres there.
Yeah, it was. It's called Psychic Vampires, and that was. I mean, the title is pretty self-explanatory in terms of the subject matter. And then I think I had a synth track that I did. I did a cover of my friend's band from Montana who we reacted to. His song Morning. I had to like just figure out the chords on piano, and then did the piano part, did the vocal part, and then added layers. So I did that as well, just kind of like have something to end the record. And I think there was one more track that I wrote. Yeah, Sun in My Sails. And then I went back for sessions for the first record and discovered this a piano and guitar track that me and Alex had done, my roommate at the Whale Tail. And yeah, I kind of split it up with me just kind of soloing over this progression that he was doing on the piano. And yeah, kind of, it was the intro to the album. And that,
It's always good to recycle, reuse, revamp. You know, when I made my rock opera, at least part one was mainly a mishmash of songs, riffs, ideas that I had had throughout my whole life. And then, you know, sort of organized them as best as I could into the story format, and then, you know, finished the lyrics and changed, revamped, reword, re-lyricized, all different kinds of stuff. So it's always good to reuse, recycle, you know, and it's one of the hardest things as an artist is self-censorship, you know. We develop a loathing of our previous work. Oh, I'm so much better than that now. Like, it's not, you know, I feel like that's destructive. So that's one of the things that I like to talk about. And a side note, it's really cool that we're actually filming in person. Thank you for coming in person here. This is the first time we've done Flowering Creativity in person, with the exception of the one time where my wife interviewed me. That was the only other time we filmed in person. So this is really cool. Thank you for being here. this is cool because it's going to give everybody that watches you on the sound a little bit more perspective about who you are and how where you come from, and a little bit more about your musical background. Different artists have different processes. How do you use creativity in your work?
Just taking in the various influences I've had musically, and even in my personal life. And I played with so many amazing musicians over the years of various degrees, and I played in an alternative rock band, a psychedelic jam band, straight up black metal, a tech death band. I played
That's
bass.
cool.
I'm on a psychedelic rock record, so yeah, there's actually another record with me on there, Moving Waves, Table for One. So I did that with my friend Kyle Blenkush in Minnesota. He's a bass player, keyboardist, and he wanted me to play rhythm and lead guitar on that.
One of the things that's really affected all of us, is the inability to go out and play, the ability to go out and see other artists, right? The big artists' inability to tour. I mean, you can touch on that, but in other ways too. I mean, how has this pandemic affected you and your life and creativity?
Honestly, I feel like it has had a positive effect on a lot of my life in the way that, I did transition during the pandemics, and that was a little bit rough at first. Even though it was rough, long term, I was like, yeah, this is going to be good for me. I need something needs to change. And I did a lot of reflection at the beginning of the pandemic, along with writing music. That was beneficial, even though at the time I would say the way that I felt about it was, I was in a weird place mentally. So I mean, a lot of us were. And to give you all some history, I had already planned on moving here without knowing the pandemic was going to happen.
Oh, me too.
I had planned on leaving Minneapolis on April 1st, but I got let go from my job on March 21st. So I ended up leaving Minnesota March 24th. So that was following Monday, I think. And then getting here a couple days later with a U-Haul trailer and my cat, which, that was that was a hell of an adventure through all those states. But even that, I would say, looking at even the trip here was very transformative, because where I was at, even pre-move, and where I am now is so far removed. I'm a much more confident and fully realized version of myself, in terms of knowing how I want to go about things, and who I am, which I guess to some degree I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, that's kind of I feel like it's a lifetime thing. And I would also say, if you're not doing self-examination, then that might be an issue. It's
crucial.
I guess in why I examine myself so thoroughly is because I guess I growing up and all that, I saw my parents not doing a lot of self-examination with themselves, and I would look at them and I'm like, they're kind of they're both on autopilot in a lot of ways, and I really think I could do this better. And it took me a while to figure that out. I realized it wasn't that easy.
Oh no, it's sort of an example, a physical, to sort of illustrate what I'm talking about from an emotional or creative standpoint. is like the digestive system. It is very easy, especially if you don't eat the best foods, for your digestive system to get all backed up. So a few months ago, people may remember that my family did a juice cleanse, and we ate raw for like 4 days, completely raw, just vegetables and fruits, and that was it. And then we did just juice for 2 weeks, and I cleaned myself out, and then we ate raw for 4 days. And when I went back to eating regular food, I never felt better in my life. I felt amazing. And it's been a couple of months, and now I'm starting to feel like I need to do it again. But like, I never knew what that feeling was before. Like, it's like the being, now I can feel that it's like kind of clogged up a little bit, if that makes sense. So when we take the time and we self introspect, and we don't just gloss over our day, like, we really go into the present moment. How do I feel right now? And if there's something that's bothering me, like, what is it? How do I identify it? How do I solve it? How do I, help myself? And it takes a lot of energy to want to help yourself, right? If you're downtrodden, depressed, if you're feeling like, hopeless, or you just lost your job, or, worried about getting sick in a freaking pandemic, or any of these things, it can be really hard. That must took a lot of courage. And I can see the wisdom, though. And if you're going to be alone for a time and kind of locked in and not able to go places and do a lot of things, that is a really good time for deep introspection and making changes to yourself. And I respect that. That's really cool.
I wouldn't say it took courage. It's more like I had to be myself.
Willpower.
Or I was just gonna stagnate and nothing was going to change. I didn't know, like, everything about it. I had to do months and months of reflection, and I had originally come out in October of 2019. I didn't know I was going to transition or anything like that, but when I came here, it gave me, and because of the pandemic, it gave me time to kind of think and reflect. And yeah, I decided to transition, and I think the first day I took hormones. It was August 15th of last year. So yeah, it's coming up on a year, folks.
Wow. Let's talk about daily routine. I have not had a chance yet today, but once my work for the day subsides, I'm gonna go take a little jog outside. I feel like, ideas get clogged up in here, and one way that I clear my head is by going outside, getting some fresh air, and doing a little bit of jogging. Do you have a daily routine? Anything you do to help you to stay creative and flowing?
Well, lately, I haven't really. I mean, I've been like just sitting down with the guitar and even just playing other people's songs. Even when I'm not feeling like writing something myself. Yeah, I think that helps keep the muscles like doing something. It's working. It is still working a muscle, even if it's not like creative muscle fully. Even though, like, I guess in a way it is, because playing somebody else's work, it's gonna come off sounding like you. I've studied various guitar players. Like, what is that? I was going through some of Gary Moore's work last week. As far as his lead style goes.
Practice routine. That's a good direction to take it in, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that also keeps me interested, because I haven't had a really like traditional practice routine. Because I mean, I know scales and all that, and but I don't like. I just don't have. I've never really had a traditional practice routine. I wouldn't say because I'm lazy. I just like.
Just making a point of playing every day, really.
Yeah. Even if it's somebody else's work, or I'm just sitting there, like, just kind of playing notes, whatever, chords, see what happens. I mean, maybe that just comes from the fact that I'm completely self-taught. And I actually also, I guess, in terms of who I'm interested in, musically. There's a lot of self-taught guitar players or ones that have had, minimal lessons and kind of like launched themselves into stratosphere. And I look up to those people. Oh, yeah, for sure. I guess that's why I like a lot of the classic guitar players. They're appealing.
What challenges have you faced that disrupt your creative flow?
When I was living in Minneapolis, I was running a house. I was working full time, and all the fact that we were also putting on shows and all the other stuff that happened with living in that house that put a cog in my creative output. I feel like for a while, and that's why I've been so adamant on like doing stuff lately. I would also say just feeling uninspired during that time between drinking too much and like just my environment. I mean, I was still playing a lot, but I was very discouraged and not as confident as I am now. I'm more grounded and in my lane, and if you know what I mean, Matthew.
Yeah.
Before it was like, what's gonna happen tonight?
All over the place.
And like for a while there, I was it's like a 6-pack of beer a night, and then on weekends it was even worse. So yeah, I would consume alcohol to cope, and that went on for a few years. I had some good times. So anybody that from the Whale Tale that's watching this, we had some good times. It's just like that house it had to end. It was like college for us. It's kind of a fratty sort of atmosphere. It was hard to describe like the energy there unless you lived in the house or hung out with us.
Sure.
We definitely grew as people during that time, I would say, through the good and the bad. So yeah, it wasn't all bad. I mean, we had some great jams, or we'd throw a show some weekends, and I think we had like 250 people at one show, and between the backyard and the front yard and the inside the house. It was nuts. Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's why I say like the frat house type of party house.
I know what you're talking about. I've been a frequent visitor to different houses like that. I never lived in a house like that. And that's probably a good thing for me. But I was one of the people that would crash on the couch sometimes.
Yeah, no, we're
talking a long time ago, 20 years ago.
we had those people too, and we were pretty open. And sometimes that
you don't want somebody driving home drunk or something, That's like, not only is it illegal, it's sort of like morally wrong. You got to look out for your buddies, because dudes be like, I can drive. Oh, you know what I mean?
Oh, we had our friend Taylor one time, actually more than a few times. He would show up with like a big bottle of New Amsterdam vodka. I think he's still struggling with alcoholism, but yeah, he would just like this big bottle of New Amsterdam vodka, consume half of it himself, and then the rest we would. Yeah, he'd try to drive after that. I'm like, no.
Sometimes you just gotta put your foot down. There's a couch, here's a blanket, here's a pillow, there's a bucket. Okay, that's all you need. Here's a glass of water.
Yeah.
Excuses. How do you deal with excuses on a daily basis?
I mean, this is one I'm pretty famous for. At least I think I am. Because sometimes it's like I don't have the motivation to, like just pick up something, and I could. It's just like right there. I could be picking it up. Sometimes, yeah, I do have to kind of be like, yeah, okay, I should be doing something else because I'll have more motivation later. Because
Hmm.
sometimes you just gotta, um, you gotta like take your mind off of that for a second and come back to it later. If it's because sometimes it just doesn't work. Um,
I can feel that. There's definitely like moments that, you'd like to be feeling creative, but you're just not. And so you can honor that and not, you don't have to feel bad about that. Um, that can happen legitimately, you know? You don't want that to happen all the time.
no, of course
Yeah.
not, and I guess that's where sometimes I start to feel artistic guilt. Oh, I haven't written anything this week. Damn it. Or
I've definitely, especially recently, I've been in that boat. Like the the desire to want to make music is different than making videos about other people's music. And I mean, I love making reaction videos, I do, but I mean, I spend such a huge percentage of my time doing it, that it's like sometimes I'd rather just be singing or playing the guitar. I totally dig that. And then you feel like, oh well, but if I do this work, this is going to yield these results. Oh, but if I do this work, oh, this is going to yield less results. So it's lower on the importance. And then there's also other people's excuses too. Like when you're working with someone else, and they're giving you excuses. We can talk about that as well.
I've had that in various bands I've been in over the years, and I've always felt like I'm gonna sound maybe not arrogant, but I don't know. Like I worked a bit harder than everybody else, and then I would see people slacking off, and I would kind of give them shit about it. Like
Yeah.
like yeah, we've been working on this song for this long. You should have it down by now. Like what the hell? Even as a bass player, like yeah, I would get a
A little
little
bit on the
annoyed.
perfectionist side.
I would get yeah. When I was working with Rick, I was in good company because he's kind of a perfectionist. I enjoyed jamming with him because he wanted to get everything.
You just take everything
Yeah.
really, really seriously. Like, is that what you're trying to say?
Sort of. It depends on the situation, but like it's like if we're just learning the song, then it's like our first few times playing it, and uh that's understand or like first few weeks, because songs take time to gel and work together. But if it's months down the line and you still haven't got it, I'm like, yeah, how can you be off? Like, are you taking this seriously? I'm like, it just like when you put that much energy into something and you see somebody that you're collaborating with not putting as much energy into it, it does get to you a little bit. At least it has to me over the years, which is, I guess, one of the reasons why I started doing things myself.
Yeah, I when I was doing my rock opera, part one had a lot more of my wife on it. And she wanted it to be a 50-50 collaboration. And I did too. But then I ended up doing three-quarters of the work. And I wanted her to contribute more. I wanted her to help more with the mixing, help more with picking out my vocals, help more in ways that she could help more so that it would balance out. And but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want to. And it made it not fun for her. Even though she wanted it to be 50-50, I guess in her defense, she didn't realize the immensity of the project. She didn't realize how many hundred, if not thousand hours I was going to be spending on this 2 hour rock opera. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I didn't keep track of the number of hours I worked on it, obviously, but it's a lot. And so then the second part really ended up being almost just me, where my wife did a few vocals, my daughter did a few vocals, but pretty much it was what I told them to do. Like, they didn't really collaborate in the same way, like helping to write the songs. My wife didn't, I think she might have played one or two bass lines on the record instead of most of them. It just, so I know what you mean, because I was sort of in your shoes there, where I was like, well, look, you can help, you can do this and this and this. She's like, I don't want to.
I guess maybe it comes from a place of like, well, like like I'm passionate about music,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to find similar people. When some people are just, there's been few people I've been in bands with, they're passive, or even on the other end of things, you got, just complete divas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
There's a lot of people that are set in their ways, like I've played with musically, and they're good, but they do what they do, and they, no offense, are not necessarily like about growth,
yeah.
right? They'll do the same stuff that they do, and maybe they're pretty good at it. Maybe they're really good at it, but 10 years later, it's the same show. You know what I mean? And that's not me. I was never like that. I never wanted to be, doing the same
songs
that I did 20 years ago. I mean, but for the people who like that, I mean, for the people who they love being Elvis impersonators, hey, that's for them, right? I love Eleanor Goldfield. She said, you got to be you, because like that's your role. Like, that's the only role on earth that's not taken. That's the one you assigned to yourself. So just do it. Be yourself.
That's something that I connected with when I was watching her.
Yeah.
Her your interview with her, rather. Truer words have not been spoken.
So, stress. Now, it may not be different, but if it is, you can differ. But how do you manage your stress before and since the pandemic?
Before, my stress level was up here. And that was because I was just taking on too much. And like I was saying earlier, I was drinking to cope. And since then, and then even since transitioning, I've like begun to cut it down further and further. It's been gradual, because for a while there, I would have considered myself an alcoholic a bit. Definitely a habitual thing. It's like getting a pack of cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
It's probably not good for my liver, but I'm like definitely still kind of physically addicted to it. So at this point, I would say it's a more healthy intake, and it's not like I'm drinking to cope. I have better coping mechanisms in line to just keep myself mentally all right. I'm
cool.
HRT and transitioning has kind of leveled out my emotions a lot, and I've come back into a sense of balance that I haven't felt in years.
Good. That's great.
So that's definitely the like before and then now. It's vastly different. It's at first it was kind of subtle, and now it's like, ooh, wow, that person I was before, that person was a mess. Yeah, I don't know if I like identify with that person anymore. It almost seems like it happened to all that happened before happened to a different person, even though like when I talk about it, I know that happened to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's weird sort of like past life sort of thing. Like, yeah.
I mean, we can talk about that. I want to give a shout out. I don't really talk about religion on my channel, but there's one book that I really love. It's a scientific book. It's called Journey of Souls. And in this book, this guy does hypnotic regression on people to what was called life between lives, where he like finds out, like goes to their past life and then like has them die and then like finds out what happens. It's really interesting. What advice would you offer to someone who's struggling creatively to regain their flow? I mean, we've all been around block people, block friends, block roommates, block loved ones.
Yeah.
What would you say to help them?
Be fearful of stagnancy, and don't let yourself stagnate, because I would I went through that numerous times over the years as a I guess musician, and I mean, like, I was homeless for a time, and I mean, you know, I was couch surfing, I guess. Homeless, kind of borderline, pretty much homeless by choice, just because of
not having a residence. I mean, that's, you know,
yeah, just because of situational things that were that I didn't want to be around my family at the time. And my dad, or excuse me, not my dad, my mom had passed away in 2009, and that was, it was kind of a dark time. But yeah, I would say, you know, try to create like inspiration out of those dark times. I definitely after going through things for a few years, I definitely found inspiration, and having gone through that and a few abusive relationships afterwards, and, you know, out of misery comes inspiration. It's weird how that works.
Help to process, you know, like, all of us have feelings, all of us have hurt feelings at times, all of us probably hurt feelings at times, and, you know, to process all that, you know, it really requires us to go inside ourselves. And creativity is a beautiful way that you can process those feelings. And, you know, when life gives you hops, make some beer. Like, I was talking about this giant fight that I had with my wife earlier in the podcast. Well, the end result of that fight is probably her favorite of the songs that I've written. It's called My Worst Nightmare. I wrote a song about what it would be like to lose her, and you know, just imagining it, and wrote the song about it. And, you know, it helped to realize just how deeply I cared for her, you know. So it's important that we process these feelings, and we don't just leave them bottled up inside ourselves. Another thing, like when my guitar was broken, my guitar neck, you know, my wife stood behind me and she said, well, if we need to, we'll buy you another guitar. And I was like, well, how about we try to fix it? You know, I think that'd be a lot cheaper. Right now, I'm not making a ton of money on YouTube. You know, there's ways you can donate to help, but I'm just saying that they're not paying me very good, so I didn't want to buy another guitar. So we spent $25 and we fixed it. We made it into a Nashville 6, and it works. It's cool. See, there's actually a video about that. You can check that out and see how we fixed it. DIY. Yeah, that's out right now. And so I got one more question here for you before we move over to bonus content. Everybody, make sure that you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels.
And check me out on Bandcamp.
Definitely.
keysofsolomon.bandcamp.com. Again, keysofsolomon.bandcamp.com.
Yes, it will be on the screen. Okay, so do you feel you choose your passion, or does your passion choose you?
I would say it's kind of a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. As far as like feeling passionate about something, it's almost like it feels innate. I guess like when you're passionate about something, it feels like it, or you're enthused about something, it feels like it comes from some other place.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, you know, it depends really, like who you are, like what, like even
it's a tough question to unwrap.
Yeah, I mean, I've felt as far as like passion and inspiration from even just my surroundings, like being out in nature, and that I find that inspiring, and it's one reason why I got so hugely into black metal is the natural aspect of uh, that particular genre. People struggling to like regain their flow. Yeah, passion is important, like feeling it and feeling inspired, and you got to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, like if the passion's not there, then it's kind of hard to just do it.
Very true. Very true. It's good. Like a lot of get up and go. Okay, Eve. So why don't you let everybody know, how can they find you and your related projects on the web?
keysofsolomon.bandcamp.com has all my Keys of Solomon stuff. I have a separate one for jams I threw up during the Whale Tail years. So that's like, I think it's under whaletailjams.bandcamp.com. So
cool.
That's just like random jams we had that I recorded. I just threw up there. I don't even know if anybody's gonna listen to it, but and then
anywhere else people can find you?
Yeah, there's that. It'd be under my dead name on movingwaves.bandcamp.com. Like I mentioned that project earlier.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. We're getting ready to head over to patreon.com/Matthew's Music Lesson Studio, and also over to Evelyn's Patreon for some bonus questions and content. Make sure you subscribe to Evelyn Holland. Thank you for mashing the subscribe button at Matthew's Music Lesson Studio, hitting that like button on this video, and sharing out Flowering Creativity so everybody can see it. And remember, you can support me not only at Patreon, but you can buy me a coffee /Matthews Music. You can Venmo at Matthews Music, and the non-profit best way to support the channel is at LiberaPay /Matthews Music. LiberaPay.com /Matthews Music. Also, you can get music lessons from me. I teach on the web worldwide. You get to record the lessons at MatthewsMusicLessonStudio.com. And we'll see you guys all next time on Flowering Creativity.